Burn the Box, a portal to the world of hidden truths and untapped power. A sanctuary where together we unmask the oppression hidden in the shadows far too long. Unscripted, unplanned, unrehearsed. Stay tuned for powerful conversations, thought-provoking insights as we ignite the sacred rebellion of the global majority. Let's begin this incredible journey together. Welcome to Burn the Box. Your host, Dr. Sonali Deepika.
Welcome to another episode of Burn the Box. I feel just so much joy and so much gratitude to be here with Erin Trent Johnson, founder of BlackMamaBody, who was one of our co-facilitators in the course of somatic abolitionism, the 2-year course that everyone on this season of Burn the Box was part of. And I feel so much gratitude because it was challenging in the best of ways. Mm-hmm. And so appreciate you, Erin, for just being one of those guides, for giving us words for just complex experiences, and for your presence in those 2 years. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. We were connecting in a way that felt like it had been a short time since we had been together, and also in such a resourceful way, right, of connecting now one-on-one after that large group experience. So to be able to make real connection and witness each other's hearts and experiences that's my pleasure. I so appreciate the invitation.
You. It's my pleasure too, which is why I've been called to gather us and get one-on-one. Let's get a little deeper with members of our community and these bonds that form what emerged from a process of a deep process that we were in.
Yes.
So I'm curious for you with the question that I've been asking everyone in terms of what is alive for you now in your life, in your path around burning boxes, around expanding out of spaces that are confined and contracted, around forging your way into a different way of being, perhaps.
Yes, thank you. I love that question. I felt both this sense of ease and relaxation that came over me as I really connected with the word surrender. And I feel like that has been so much of my orientation and what's alive for me right now in terms of expanding beyond what is known as possible and envisioning the beyond possible. What is the embodiment, or how am I embodying the ways of being, right, that allow me to be with the beyond possible? I don't even say I think, I know it from the bumps and the rubs and the learning that I have experienced in taking risks to live outside of what I have always known as the realm of the responsible or the possible. And I think as an entrepreneur who is committed to healing the wounding of extraction and exploitation culture, so running a business and also in relating to capitalism in a way that is different and unknown is very much a practice of surrender, or it has become that, because I think the orientation that I've had in the past has been very much of control every outcome to try to ensure the most sure and possible security and safety. And that is my experience, and that's a generational experience. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Honestly, aside from perhaps burning boxes for the topic of this podcast, the idea of surrendering, I'm so fascinated by it. And I'm continually invited into that in my own life too. And it's not something familiar at all.
Yeah.
Well, let me speak for myself. I haven't had any guidance on that or experience of that. It was always like, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? And it was kind of a very from the mind, from the conditioning, from the expectations, from the obligations, like, okay, this is what's next, this is what's next. And there's something that I've experienced in my own life that's so expansive. It's unfamiliar. And it's also like just so freeing to, well, what if I just surrendered? Like I find myself going back and like, what if I just
what if? Yes. I love that you came to that in such a generative way. I feel like I was forced to do it. I feel like I've been given directions several times. Oh, and not on the battlefield, but in some ways it's felt like on the battlefield, my therapist surrender, spirit, my ancestors surrender. But it's not, I think what has helped me just in hearing what you shared about like the conditions and the external expectations of getting to that next step, figuring out what's the next right thing. What's the next right thing that we're supposed to be doing? And I think even for people who are, and I would put us in this world, right, of people who are committed to a just and healthy and caring world and spaces where we're all able to thrive, there's still this like, okay, this is the next way we do that though. So if you're not doing it this way, then you use the wrong language, then right. And so there's all these ways where it's just like, I am in the box gets smaller. It does. And so I think that in hearing that, I was just like, oh yeah, I've received the messages of surrender, but I think it was most recently that I recognized they weren't fighting words. Like it wasn't my beloved elders or my ancestors or my spirits or God or my therapist. And as I mentioned, my Ayurvedic doctor, who's also like, I wrote it on your prescription. It says surrender. Do the best you can. This
is your order.
It's actually on there, on my order. I realized that my orientation towards surrender was that it was being imposed upon me. Like you have to learn how to stop and sit down and be with and accept. And I think that the recognition that it was an invitation allowed me to sit back, and the recognition of what I was actively avoiding. And I say active, I mean, I was doing really hard avoidance work. Like avoidance is not just like turn your back and don't do anything or just lay down and collapse. Like it really, and I think even with collapse, right, you're conserving your energy. But I think as it relates to me, like trying new ways of being in my relationships, even my most intimate relationships, my familial relationships, my partnerships, the idea that my driving things was not going to create a new possibility for our relationship. Everything is not a problem seeking me to fix it. And I think that has helped me rest into surrender rather than being forced into surrender.
Oh, yeah, I love that. I love the naming of it as an invitation. And in that, I hear like, you have permission. And that it does feel, if we're forced into anything, that doesn't feel very free. It's like you must surrender.
Yes, it's for your best. It's for your best. Trust me, it's for the best.
Just do it. Just do it. Oh, but yeah, when we can like I'm getting different, kind of let go of the steering wheel a little bit, or just kind of allow other people to be involved in what's happening, maybe. I know this may be getting a little metaphorical, but there's something of a allowing space for something else to come in. That idea of like if we're gripping, like if it is the steering wheel in this analogy, like nothing can come in because we're just like
Yes. Yes.
tightly
Yes.
holding on, you know.
Yes. Yes. No, I so appreciate that analogy. It's so funny. I am liking it to, I think the experience, even when I think about my communication and the ways in which I'll talk to my family members, my husband, when I'm coming from that orientation of we've got to do it this way to get it this way so we can have the best quality of life, or we've got to do it this way so that we can live in the most healthy way. Right? And when I recognize this shaping, but also of like, we've got to, and this very like rigid, my shoulders are usually arched. And I won't recognize it until after the fact. My husband's actually really great at like somatic witnessing. We don't even talk about it. We don't say it, but he'll be like, do you notice what your arms are doing right now? I'm like, oh, I did not know they were like that. But I think even the idea that if I were to just hold for a moment and see what emerged, the fear that if I don't, then what, right? I could make room for something I couldn't even imagine. And so I really do appreciate you saying that, because I feel like my imagination has expanded so much in that release of the gotta know what's next. So if I can room for what might be here, what might emerge, that yeah, no, you don't actually know. That's the point. You're not supposed to know this next step to trying this new way of relating, even when it scares you to death. You're still here.
Yes. Yeah, it's amazing that fear, like that I know I've experienced many times, that fear of unknown, like how kind of terrifying that can be. And yet that's what keeps us in boxes, right? That's what keeps us in confined spaces. Because like, oh, I don't know. No, but I know this. I know this. I know there's a lot of problems here. There's a lot of issues. There's this, that, the other, but I know it. I'm just gonna stay.
Oh gosh. What, okay, and I gonna flow with something that what that just came to me was recently I was talking to my dad, and he was letting me know that he had attended a memorial service for a peer of his and someone he really respected at Temple University, which is local here in Philadelphia. And he's telling me this story and I'm listening, I'm like half listening. And then I realized he's talking about what he was witnessing at the memorial. And he actually watched the collapse and the death of the president of the university. Like it happened right in front of him. And she was a Black woman who worked in the university in so many roles and was recently named as the president, or I believe the interim president, because they recently let go the first Black president of the university. But she was, prior, she had been the dean of the law school for many years. And she was very well known in terms of her work for diversity, equity, inclusion within the university. When I see patterns, and so obviously there's so many women bodies of culture, so many melanated women bodies are leading the work that in many ways makes their lives so much more challenging, right? Because every day is a fight. I know this because I led the work and I didn't lead it for the number of years. And in the kind of institution, I led it within K-12 schools. And so when I think about the moment that my dad said that, I was just like, oh gosh, what was she carrying? I have no idea. But I think about the orientation of the box that tells us this is the way. This is the way to more possibility. It's still inside of this box though. So you've got to work within the parameters of this box to get to more possibility. And the box gets, at least in my body and around my body, when I have worked in institutions, when I was up against the institution, trying to create more room, the boxes got smaller. As a coach or as a facilitator, when I work with institutions, it feels like the box is getting smaller. And so I'm not even necessarily embedded within the institution, but I can watch it. And so it feels like it is subsuming me. That's like the feeling. And so as I was connecting with the story of this brilliant woman who, like, I've just read so many stories after stories after stories of the lives that she touched. And I know, and like not even just reading, connecting with people who, you know, she was their dean or their mentor and what have you. And considering all of the requirements of survival in the box. And all that I kept hearing in my head from my dad was, she collapsed, she collapsed, she collapsed. And I don't want to say this. I hope that it, like, I am honoring her life and not sensationalizing her death and transition. And at the same time, I just kept hearing that. And I could feel collapse in my body. And I took it to my prayers. I took it to my Vimbasi. I took it to therapy. I took it to intimate spaces with other Black women and women bodies of culture to check in. Because while I believe that as someone who works for themselves and is making conscious choices about the boxes that I'll get next to, but also trying to like continue to be out of it, I'll notice that I will feel very edgy and very rigid and controlled. Like that will come back up for me when I feel like I'm either being pulled in or when I witness others. And so within the boxes of survival. And so I've been sitting with that a lot around, how do you make the invitations to surrender and make that an invitation that is welcoming enough, that is giving enough incentive to say, I know you don't know what is over here because you've never known it before, and neither have I. Will you come dream with me? And so I'm trying to figure out my language, but that's where I am with it right now, because that's telling someone that, like you said, when I felt like somebody was like, surrender, you know, I was like, I'll take a nap when I want to. But that has been with me so much around, people are not in boxes all the time because, to your point, they want to be. There is the belief that we have never seen anything else but this. We don't know anything else but this, cannot imagine outside of it. And that is terrifying. So I'm going to work with this, even if it's killing me. And I want to offer love, and I want to offer compassion and curiosity with my hand when I reach in and say, how can I be with you as we try something new?
There's so much in what you shared that's just feeling. Notice one thing is that you don't have to do it alone, right? The surrender.
Yes.
And how can we support each other? Like,
Yes.
I'll go with you.
Yes.
Let's go do this. Let's explore this for a little while, or however that looks, you know. Let's make a choice that's a little bit more expansive or a little bit more daring. Perhaps. I don't know where this is coming, you know, like let's just, can we do, will you come with me and I'll come, you know, like I'll be there with you. Because it's not like when it's ordered or when it's demanded in some way, you must surrender. When it's like these kind of things, it doesn't feel freeing, at least it doesn't feel that way to me. And it's also like, we don't need to shock our nervous system any more than like what we experience on a day-to-day,
Yes.
basis.
Yes. That part is so important. I can't stress that enough. And I really appreciate you saying that, because I feel like there are so many experiences where I both felt like that was the way to help or to teach, right? And recognize that clearly doesn't work for me. So why would that kind of shock and awe work for anyone else's nervous system? I have really been sitting with what makes freedom easeful, what makes taking the risk for your well-lived life, for your well-being, your well-body, what makes that risk smaller? How do we look at that and say, I have enough room and enough capacity to take this step, and I'm going to do this little bit of practice, and I'm going to come back. And also, someone is going to be on my left, and someone is going to be on my right, and someone is going to be in front of me and behind me, and they've got me, and we're in this together. We are not the lone soldiers in this battle. This is not a battle. This is a love revolution, right? That's how I approach it. And so with more love and more ease, how do we take these risks, rest, come back, take a little bit more? And the stakes are not such that we could lose it all, or it feels like, right, we could lose it all. Yeah. Our safety, our viability, right, all of that, if we take this risk.
Yeah, that's huge. There's something about just like community. However, like we have a community with this course, this experience. You were one of the co-facilitators, and so many of us in it, staying, connected, like building something together, and from an embodied place, because it was, somatic abolitionism. So like tempering our nervous systems to allow for more expansiveness in the experience. So it's just what was coming through, like how we can do this with others.
Oh, yes. I mean, for me, that was the greatest lesson, right? So we have to. And not have to, again, like from commanding, like you must, dictatorship. But again, it's the invitation to be in love, right? To recognize that tending to our nervous systems and tending to and creating that expansiveness does allow us to see what is more possible relationally. And so the world does get bigger. The box, whether you burn it down, kick in the door, dig a tunnel underneath, you got somebody on the other side who is like, I have been doing the same work with you, and it may show up differently. My history, my culture, my shaping, my social location might tell me that I am not worthy of taking this chance because I don't have generations of patterns or historical or systemic wealth or whatever it is that I think I'm supposed to have to take this chance to try something different. It's going to affect how I show up in relationship too. It's going to affect what I believe is possible, how disposable I think I am, what I'm willing to share or what I'm willing to ask for help. One of the greatest things that I think I've learned in my practice, my work, is around what allows us to become trustworthy to ourselves and how much more that allows us to trust others. Right? Like when my amygdala believes she got this, she's going to have boundaries and we don't have to worry. And she's going to declare what she needs because she believes there's enough for all of us. There's not that fear of scarcity, which I think holds us back from trying anything. And so that writing of our relationships and being in relationship from that place, yes, that allows us to to definitely co-dream of all different kinds of ways of living in and around and outside of the boxes, for the boxes to not even be the thing that we're focused on.
Yes. Oh,
we relate to it differently. A lot less energy goes into deconstructing, destructing. And I think a lot more energy can shift into, well, what are we creating together that is from a whole new way of relating? And I believe that is definitely what I have been on fire about, is like our communal care and how we are learning and trying new ways of being in relationship that are coming from the everyday practice of healing that allows us to be in those relationships. And it's every single day, as you know, right? Like coming back and trying again, and coming back together and trying again. And so that's definitely very alive right now.
Really love that idea of like, we don't have to prioritize the boxes, that at a certain point, the words that were coming were like creative and generative. We get to focus on something else. I realized I could talk to you for a very long time. I realized that the time we have a kind of time container, but I wonder two things. I wonder if there's anything that has been coming through that wasn't said that you want to name, or anything coming through around that. And also, of course, where we can find you, where people can connect with you and your work. I've been so fortunate to join some of your spaces through BlackMamaBody, and really just been so nurturing, and so much of what you're sharing comes into that, like the space that you hold for us to gather in community from all over the place, all over the world.
Oh, it's delicious. I love that. Thank you so much. Yes. I think one of the things that I have been, and I feel like you just named it right, I've been talking and writing a lot about viral imagination. And as you know, in our practices, in our play space and deep medicine studies circle, in any of the BlackMamaBody offerings, I think I've always had this dream that our relationships would keep growing and also incubating new ideas, right, for ways of being that do allow us to imagine worlds where we're not centering the dis-ease and the imbalance, not that we are not in conscious awareness of it, and that we are actively generating enough resource from within and within our relationships that these new ways of being, these practices that we're engaging in, are literally spreading. And so that wild imagination begets more wild imagination. And I actually love the fact that I get to see it, because it really is happening, because I feel like there are, all of these webs of connection where people are doing this incredible work. And then I know that they're connected to these other people who are like you are, right? And to know that is continuing to spread and to plant more possibility, or to spread like spores of possibility. I really want to place emphasis on how that idea of viral imagination is, I think, essential to the way that we are engaging in relationships that help us reimagine the box. Like whether we in it or out of it, right? We get to reimagine our relationship to it. Yeah. And so I'm really just excited by this connection and by what will grow from here. And for BlackMamaBody spaces, you can find me on Instagram at BlackMamaBody, and all of my information is in my bio there. And then we also have some exciting upcoming, actually a practice space. We're doing a 30-day commitment to care, but we do, I think, really try to create spaces for us to play and experiment with the ways of being, the ease, that is necessary for trying liberated stuff, right? Like that stuff ain't easy. And so we want to make it easy. And so we do it in ways that are very much centered in play, and very much, as you know, there's always music, there's always dancing of some kind.
Yes.
And yes, and then there's these beautiful commitments that people are making to each other in relationship that continue to grow and expand. So I can't wait. I'll love to and reach out to the community as new offerings are definitely coming online this fall. And I can't wait to be in space with you again. It's just an absolute pleasure and joy every time. Always learning, always expanding.
Always learning, always expanding. I love it. I love what you named about viral imagination. To me, that just felt like that burns boxes, because we're just gonna imagine and imagine and imagine and ignite each other's imagination, and just spread everywhere in a very expansive, generative way. And I also like what you shared about like these spaces of play, which I've been in, space of play, of ease, music, like that amidst really so much depth, of what the topics are. It's just something that just occurred to me is like surrender spaces. Like there's something of a surrendering that we're invited into those spaces.
Thank you for naming that. Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yes,
So much
thank
for being
you.
here, for all that you do.
And you too, and you too. I'm so grateful. Thank you.
Thank you for listening and being a part of the Burn the Box movement.